Join us at Walters on Friday, October 4th for our end-of-season podcast party. The evening is scheduled from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
The NFL season is finally here, so make sure you're ready with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. It gives you the most live NFL games all in one place, exactly what you need to make your Sundays more magical. Sign up today at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
2 balls, 2 strikes. And now the pitch. Swing and a squibber back toward the mound. Ursak has it jogging toward first. The underhand toss to Gurriel and plenty of time for the out. And the Royals have won it. They have taken the first 2 games of these 3-game interleague series. And they have shut out the Nationals for a second straight game. And the Nationals are blanked for a 3rd straight game.
Defense was good. We just, once again, we can't score. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You got to score. Here, you got to score runs. We just can't get no runs across the board.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, September 26, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So the 2024 Nationals are not the worst offensive team in Nats history. If you go by team OPS plus, the 2007, 2008, and actually 2011 Nats were significantly worse. But the 2024 Nats are quite bad offensively, and they now have reached a new offensive low point. Wednesday evening, a 3-0 loss to the Kansas City Royals at Nationals Park in Game 2 of a 3-game series. This was the Nats' 3rd consecutive shutout loss. The Nats now have scored 1 run or less in 7 of the team's last 9 games, and the September swoon continues. The Nats now are 69 and 89, 20 games below 500, most games below 500 that the Nats have been this regular season. The Nats now have lost 8 of their last 9 games. The Nats in this month of September now are just 8 and 14, and it sure is looking like the Nats will not be surpassing last regular season's record. The Nats must go at least 3-1 over their final 4 games in order to surpass 71 and 91 of last regular season. But the kicker to what happened with the Nats on Wednesday evening is that what happened despite the Royal starting pitcher, Michael Lorenzen, who, remember, last season no-hit the Nats, leaving this game after tossing 2 1/3 scoreless innings. He left the game due to what the Royals called, quote, lower body fatigue, end quote. Mark, you wonder if the Nats may have 2024 season fatigue with what we're seeing offensively from them right now.
I mean, it sure looks like it, Al. They were lifeless, I think is the word to describe for that offensive performance, and we've seen a number of these here lately. I mean, they're up to 31 consecutive scoreless innings, 3 straight shutouts. Do you remember the last run the Nationals scored? It came in the 6th inning on Saturday at Wrigley Field via Joey Gallo's 3-run homer. Remember that? That's how long it's been since they've scored a run. As my colleague Andrew Golden of the Washington Post joked, the scoreless drought has gone on for so long, Jaden Daniels wasn't even a DC hero yet when the Nationals last scored a run. It's not good. It's not good at all. And as you said, this was essentially turned into a bullpen game for the Royals. That didn't make any difference. They had a couple of hits, a few walks, no real great opportunities, maybe 1 shot in the bottom of the 7th with 2 on and nobody out, and they couldn't advance anybody. But boy, it's tough to watch, and it feels like externally, at least from the outside, feels like guys' minds may already be on the offseason, and you hate to say that. You hope it's not the case, but it kind of feels like they see the finish line, they know the finish line's coming up, and they're already there mentally.
Yeah, I got this message on X on Wednesday night from Tar Heel Golfer. What happens first, the Nats score a run or the team formerly known as the Redskins punts? And that is a good question. What will happen next? A Tressway punt or a Nationals run? We'll have to figure that out. But regarding the topic of effort, so one of the hardest things in sports to discern is, okay, is this bad performance or is this bad effort? Davey Martinez in his postgame press conference on Wednesday night made it clear that he does not see bad effort. But that is an obvious question to ask. That is an obvious thing to wonder. Have the Nats checked out on the season? Have the Nats tapped out on the season? Are you seeing signs of that?
Well, I'm not seeing it in terms of like they're just giving away at bats and clearly their heads aren't in it. I mean, let's be clear. they're playing well in the field. They're battling to whatever extent you want to call it, that they're just not hitting at all. So I think what it's more a case of potentially is a very inexperienced lineup with guys in many cases who are playing the last week of September for the first time in their lives, whether that they've been in the big leagues the whole season or whether they spent part of the year in the minors and they're now in the majors. They know the team is out of it. They know the crowds are small. The energy isn't all that high. The weather hasn't been great. And it might be harder to summon that up. And you kind of in the back of your mind know, okay, I just got to get through the rest of this week and then I'm going home. So I don't think that's a purposeful lack of effort on their part. I think it's just the reality of a long season coming to an end. And for a lot of these guys in a position they've never been in before. And, they started having their exit meetings with the coaching staff earlier this week because there's a lot to get done over the course of the week. Well, you go and you have that meeting, you're already thinking about the offseason and next year. And so I think it's natural for that to translate on the field in some way. I don't think that means they're purposely not trying or that anybody is giving it away, or I don't think it's a cause for concern, basically. I just think it's natural to feel that way at the end of a long season like this, especially for guys who haven't been in this position before.
So Mark just used the phrase coaching staff. Ah, yes, the coaching staff. It does not help that the Nats this past Saturday afternoon optioned C.J. Abrams to AAA Rochester in a disciplinary move. It does not help that the Nats in the lead up to the trade deadline traded Jesse Winker and Lane Thomas. But it is hard to see the Nats go out in this feeble, weak way, certainly offensively, and not think about the stunning news of more than a month ago. Davey Martinez on August 14th, during a pregame session, shockingly announcing that the Nats' entire coaching staff would be returning for the 2025 season. And one of the things we talked about at the time was, hey, what would have been the harm in waiting to see how the rest of the season went before committing to the coaching staff beyond this season? And, I'm not trying to turn this into a referendum on the hitting coach, Darnell Coles, but this is something that you think about. The offense is atrocious right now. And why the Nats felt the need to re-sign all of these coaches, including Coles, more than a month ago remains baffling to me, especially when that goes against what we have come to know ownership as doing, which is you don't pay until you absolutely have to pay. Here's an instance in which the learners are proactive, or at least green light being proactive, in an instance that I think most fans would have said, hey, you don't need to be proactive in this instance. Wait it out. Let it play out. I don't know if this was the motivation for your question of Davey Martinez during his postgame press conference on Wednesday night, but you asked him about, hey, if the message has been the same and the message isn't working, is it time to change the message? Darnell Coles, barring the unforeseen, is coming back as hitting coach. And I don't know that this is his fault. Like I said, this is a team that traded away some key offensive pieces. This is a team that even with those offensive pieces wasn't very good offensively. But boy, does this make at least me think about them bringing back these coaches, re-signing all of them more than a month ago, and again asking the question, why did you do that? What was the need to do that at that time?
So I think the pertinent questions here are, number one, would the same results be happening if somebody else was coaching them? It's impossible to know the answer to that. Would Dylan Cruz and James Wood be struggling here at the end of September with a different hitting coach? Who knows? Impossible to say. So I think you have to acknowledge that. I think the other pertinent question here would be, if they had not made the decision when they did, would the events of the last month change your mind about any of that? And would they now say, hang on a second, I was kind of leaning towards maybe bringing everybody back, but you know what? The way things went down the stretch, I might need to rethink that, and maybe it is appropriate to make a change there. I think that's a perfectly valid question that we'll never get a true answer to, because nobody's ever going to say that publicly, to that extent. What I'll say is that Mike Rizzo is scheduled to have a kind of season wrap up with reporters on Friday. It'll be the first time we've really interviewed him like that since that announcement of the coaching staff was made more than a month ago. And I can promise you, whether it comes from me or comes from somebody else, there will be questions asked of him about not just the decision, but the timing of it and why they felt it was important to do that at the time as opposed to waiting it out. Now, maybe the end result of all that would have been they still would have retained everybody. maybe they have seen things that tell them the issue is not the message, it's the execution. And as, somebody, said when I kind of jokingly kind of brought up something not that long ago about how much the team is struggling and, are they just not getting it, from you guys? And somebody said, well, we can't go up there and swing for them. And there's something to be said for that. Ultimately, it is on the players to get the job done. Now, you want them to have the best information. You want them to have the best coaching, the best ability to make adjustments when things are not going well. It's certainly been tough to watch here lately. I don't think it's possible to know if it would make a difference if somebody else was delivering the message or not. But it's, of course, perfectly valid, as we said a month ago, to question why the move was made when it was, and to wonder if the events of the last month of the season might have changed the evaluation of the coaching staff in any way.
There is a whistling past the graveyard element to what was done in mid-August in re-signing all of these coaches, in that it was a sub-communication of everything is fine here. Everything is going well here. There are some things that are going well, but not everything is going well. We're seeing that. And what if more things aren't going well than you maybe want to admit? And, bringing back these coaches prematurely like that, I just don't get it. I'm still stunned that they did that. I mean, the Abrams news is the most shocking news of the season. I think the re-signing of the coaches in mid-August is number 2. That came out of nowhere. Nobody was anticipating that. And again, there was not some screaming need for that. To your point, who knows if these problems still would be happening? And again, it's not necessarily about we know for sure that Darnell Coles is the reason that the offense is bad. But I think it just does raise that issue of why was that done? What was the need for that to be done? And seeing how this offense is ending the season, man, does it make you look back on that decision to bring back these coaches and just say, hey, why exactly did that have to go down? Hey, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest great offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. We are into September. Colder weather is coming. Now is a great time to replace your old inefficient windows with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. Get a free, no-obligation quote now. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. Window Nation is the best. Window Nation can install your new windows in a day or less, and Window Nation's windows come with a lifetime warranty. With proven quality and service, it's no wonder that thousands of homeowners have trusted Window Nation for years. And take advantage of the great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
If you are a fan of Vampire Weekend, then Game Time is your spot. They are performing at the Anthem on September 30th and October 1st, just after the Nats season wraps up. Game Time is proud of their ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. They also offer a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
The 0-1. Massey, it's a little looper, shallow right. That's going to fall in for a hit, and the Royals will be on the board. Scoring on the play is Isbell. Pham stops at second, 1-0 Kansas City.
Well, there was good news for the Nats on Wednesday evening, and that was the performance of their starting pitcher, DJ Herz. The Nats starting pitcher in this 3-0 loss to the Royals was Herz. He made what was his final start of this season, and he was good. Now, he was not at his best in terms of the peripherals, but 1 run in 5 innings. I feel like that is a typical DJ Herz start, especially over these last few months. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles, did issue 3 walks, recorded 3 strikeouts, 81 pitches, 52 strikes, 29 balls. Davey Martinez, during his postgame press conference, said that Herz didn't necessarily have his best stuff, but Herz found a way to give the Nats 1 run in 5 innings. And so you take a step back and you examine what he did this season, his age 23 season. June 4th was when the Nats announced that they had recalled Herz from AAA Rochester. He was brought up to the majors as the corresponding roster move to the Nats, putting Trevor Williams on the 15-day injured list with his right flexor muscle strain. And DJ Herz ultimately at the major league level this regular season, 19 starts, ERA of 4.16, whip of 126, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.76. Now, he over the 19 starts totaled just 88 and 2/3 innings, so the workload was very carefully managed. But to me, what sticks out as much as anything is this, and we've talked about this, but he got optioned back to Rochester July 8th to July 23rd for what was essentially a break. After that break, 12 starts, ERA of 3.61, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.2, and those stats include Herz's next to last start of the season, that blow-up start that he just had. That's 10-0 loss at the New York Mets on September 18th. Herz in that game officially allowed 7 runs in 3 1/3 innings. You take out just that one start, those post-break numbers look even better. DJ Herz ended his season in a strong way, and like our Mitchell Parker conversation on the last installment of the podcast, a lot of reasons for DJ Herz to feel good about what he did this season.
Yeah, and the numbers you just outlined are one sign of that. Here's another, more intangible sign of what he did this year. When you look at this last start, as you said, velocity was kind of down, didn't really feel like he had everything that he wanted. He even at one point went to just throwing out of the stretch instead of out of the windup because just wasn't feeling comfortable out of the windup. And he still got through that, allowing just the 1 run. He admitted, Davey Martinez admitted, that if you put him in that exact same situation a couple months ago, he ends up not even making it out of the 3rd or the 4th inning. The pitch count gets sky high, gives up a bunch of runs, and that's it. He learned over the course of the last few months how to get through a game like that. How many times have we talked here in this podcast the last couple of years about the importance for the young starters, not just of being good on the nights that you are good, but finding a way on the nights when you don't have your best stuff, just finding a way not to be bad, be good enough. And that's what he was in this one, to get through 5 innings on 1 run with a modest pitch count. That's the growth that you want to see from young starters. And you clearly saw between June when he first came up and here at the end of September, a lot of growth from him. Now, there's still plenty of room for more growth from him. He's got to learn how to go deeper in games, of course. They will let the pitch counts rise a little bit next year. They won't be quite as cautious with him. So he's going to have to find some more consistency for sure. But boy, when he was on, he was really good. And you mentioned the strikeout totals. To have that kind of strikeout rate as a rookie, that's a good sign, and you want to see a lot more of that. I think I saw somebody said among rookies this year, only Paul Skeens and Shota Imanaga had a higher strikeout rate than DJ Herz. That's a pretty good company.
The strikeout rate speaks to upside. And, I know that Herz has never been like supremely highly ranked prospect, but so what? And the fact that he's striking guys out like that and actually did a pretty good job in terms of not issuing walks, you wonder what he could be. And maybe there is more upside to DJ Herz than people have acknowledged. But to the point that you just made, I do think that can be an underrated aspect of a young pitcher going through a major league season. You learn stuff, right? Like you pick up stuff. You figure out how to work through an outing in which you don't have your best stuff. And this is one of the things that I think about with a guy who we can get to here in Cade Cavalli, who I know spoke to you guys earlier on Wednesday. But when you miss a season, or in Cavalli's case, seasons, it's not just like, okay, the Nats have lost out on 2 years of service time, even though that matters. That's a big deal, right? It's also that Cavalli has missed out on 2 years of growth and development. And what kind of maturation could Cavalli have enjoyed over these last 2 years in making major league starts? He hasn't had that. There are a bunch of experiences he has not had that he probably needs to have if he's going to be the pitcher who the Nats want him to be. I think about Josiah Gray in the same way. Step forward season last season, but he missed out on basically an entire season this season. And again, it's not just about a year lost to service time, what the stats could have been. It's a year of growth and development for Josiah Gray he missed out on. And next season, presumably, he'll miss most, if not all, of the season. That's more growth and development that he will not enjoy. That Herz and Mitchell Parker and Jake Irvin and Mackenzie Gore have gone through that this season. I think there is tremendous value in that. And, going back to this thing of the Nats keeping these guys healthy, getting them through the entirety of the season, I think there's so much value in that. These guys were able to have these experiences, learn from them, and hopefully be better for them.
And I think it's also important to note that if you're going to learn on the job, as they all have had to do, better to do it at a time when the team is clearly in rebuild mode, as opposed to maybe when they're starting to get into, hey, it's time to win now mode. And if Cade Cavalli pitches next year, there's going to be pressure on the team to be winning more, but you have to acknowledge that, well, he may not be there yet. And if he has these rough nights where he's learning on the job and not really all there, it's costing the team more because maybe you are trying to win. The same thing for Josiah Gray whenever he comes back. So in a way, just these guys being healthy and pitching all the way through this season, it was a good time for that to happen, because if you're going to lose, 90 games as they have, you might as well learn on the job and get that experience, because now maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, you're trying to win. And these guys have already been through it and understand and have learned something about how to become better as big league pitchers. And they're already able to make that adjustment when it comes time to try to win. And you may not have that as much with, say, Cavalli and Gray because of all the time missed.
Hey, Nats Chat, want to tell you about Mint Mobile's premium wireless package starting at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/natschat. That's mintmobile.com/natschat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/natschat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
What's up, everybody? It's Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart. I've got a podcast called Throwbacks with actor Jerry Ferrara, where we'll be talking all things sports, but also so much more. We'll give you the behind-the-scenes stories from my days as the quarterback on an iconic college football team to Jerry's days as a star on an iconic TV series. So subscribe to Throwbacks wherever you download your podcasts and follow us on all social media at Throwback Show.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The only thing I've heard from the trainers was he looked good. So that's great. But like I said, with him, it's just a matter of, getting him 100% healthy and try to get him ready for spring training next year.
So with Cade Cavalli, he was at Nationals Park on Wednesday. Obviously a highly disappointing season in that he ends up not pitching at all at the major league level off Tommy John surgery in March 2023. What stood out to you in what Cavalli had to say?
Well, he was positive and upbeat. He says that he's going home for the winter fully healthy and had finally built his arm back up, was throwing out of the bullpen through all of his pitches, so he wasn't limited in any way. And if somehow the season was still going on for another month or two, he thinks he would have been on track to come back and pitch at the end of that. And he just said, we just ran out of time. Obviously, the season is over. So, good for him for at least feeling good about himself. He says this should be a normal off season for him. Nothing special. He takes his time off. He's actually getting married next month. And then when it's time to start building your arm up, you do that in December, January, and come to spring training ready to go. So, that's great. Now, you don't really know anything until he's actually pitching in games, something he has not done since June, at least on rehab starts, and hasn't pitched in a big league game since the end of 2022 when he made his one and only start for the Nationals. So I get it. I'm glad he's encouraged that he got to this point, but obviously it turned into a lost year for him. And, I asked him just basically, we've all heard things along the way and tried to decipher like what really happened here. And I said, how would you describe it to somebody who maybe wasn't paying full attention to your season? Why was it that you were not able to pitch this year? And what he said was that his body felt great, but his arm wasn't caught up to where his body was. And by that, he means like there were times that he threw 98 miles an hour and was feeling really good about it. But maybe the next day, the arm didn't feel like it was ready to keep going and doing more. That's that dead arm that we sort of talked about, them describing it for him at some point. And feeling like maybe he was pushing himself a little faster than he wanted to, or a little faster than maybe he should have in the end. He's not blaming anybody. He wasn't injured through any of this. He just didn't bounce back from his arm as fast as he would have liked, or as much as they would have liked a guy to do who in theory could come back in 12 months. And he's saying, hey, some guys take 18 months. That's where we are right now. I feel really good. And he hopes in the end it all works out for him. Again, until we really see it, it's impossible to know. I don't think you can just pencil him in for anything next year. You hope it works out, but you don't know that that's going to be the case. But I'm glad, at least for him, that he feels like he's going home for the winter, believing that he's healthy and ready to go in 2025.
The big question, and we can't know the answer to this, but okay, so he doesn't pitch at the major league level this season because of the flu and the dead arm, but really more the dead arm. Was the dead arm a function of, hey, just a dead arm, it happens when a guy hasn't pitched for a while? Or was the dead arm a function of him not being fully recovered from the Tommy John? And we can't know that. I don't know that he can know that. But I mean, that is the question. What was the true root cause of the dead arm? And perhaps we'll find out with what happens with him in spring training. But that to me is what I wonder with Cavalli. Like the dead arm thing, we know it happens. It happens to people who haven't undergone Tommy John, but it's hard to ignore that coincidence, right? Tommy John, recovery's taken a while, and he has this dead arm that ends up preventing him from pitching at all at the major league level this season. What do you think is more likely? If he's healthy through next spring training, he begins next regular season at the major league level or pitching for AAA Rochester?
So they've got these 4 young starters who finished out this year in the big leagues that they seem high on. So you've got to believe that you're penciling those 4 in unless something goes wrong with them. You've also got to believe that they are going to pursue a veteran starting pitcher this winter, whether it's through free agency or a trade. You're essentially replacing Patrick Corbin with what you hope is a better version of him and somebody who could truly lead the staff from an experience standpoint. So that's 5 right there. So not to say it's impossible, but I could very much see them saying, hey, even if he is healthy, he still has a lot to prove. They're clearly going to be watching his innings next year and not just going to let him go for broke and make 30 starts and, throw 100 pitches every time. So I can absolutely see them saying, go start the year at AAA, show us you're healthy, pitch every 5 days down there. And then if and when the time comes, if you're performing well, feeling well, and we have a need at the big league level, then we'll call you up. But I don't think they're going to feel pressure at all to put him on the opening day roster. Certainly not when you spent the majority of this season identifying 4 young cornerstone starters that you believe you now have who have earned the right to be a part of the opening day 2025 rotation.
The Nats from 2017 through 2020 took a starting pitcher in the first round of each of those drafts. Seth Romero, Mason Denneberg, Jackson Rutledge, Cade Cavalli. That the Nats have gotten basically nothing from all 4 of those guys at the major league level really is something. But obviously still hope with Cavalli, and I guess with Rutledge, although this season did not go as we wanted with Rutledge. The Nats bullpen in this 3-0 loss to the Royals on Wednesday evening. We had 5 Nats relievers. They combined to allow 2 runs in 4 innings. 4 of the relievers were good. Eduardo Salazar was not. He allowed 2 runs without recording it out. He, in the top of the 6th, faced 3 batters, got no outs, gave up a leadoff single, a double, and a 2-run single. But Robert Garcia, top of the 6th, faced 3 batters, got 3 outs. Tanner Rainey, perfect top of the 7th with 2 strikeouts. Jacob Barnes, scoreless top of the 8th. Joe LaSorsa, a perfect top of the 9th. The bullpen, I know it has not been perfect, but despite the trades of, Hunter Harvey, Dylan Floro, etc., bullpen has not collapsed down the stretch like I think a lot of people would have anticipated. If I would have told you a month ago we are going to have a September swoon for the Nats, you might have said, hey, the pitching staff probably is the cause, especially the bullpen. That really has not happened here over these last few weeks.
No, it hasn't at all. I would have guessed at the time I was way more concerned about what the pitching staff was going to look like at the end of the year than what the lineup was going to look like at the end of the year. I thought, they're going to have Cruz and Wood and, these exciting young players, and they might be able to compensate for the losses of Lane Thomas and Jesse Winker. Well, no, they have not compensated at all for that. They have very much compensated for the losses of Hunter Harvey and Dylan Floro. And by the way, Hunter Harvey, a member of the Royals, I was hoping to catch up with him, see him here. He's not even here. He is still on the IL with a back injury. Apparently was in Dallas getting examined, a second opinion on it. They're desperately trying to get him back at some point here if they make the playoffs. It's not looking great for him. I feel awful for the guy given his injury history. And as we mentioned a week ago or so, the Diamondbacks DFA'd Dylan Floro. He did not work out there at all. So the trade's worked out from the national standpoint for sure. And it's been great to see the development of, say, a Jose Ferrer stepping up and pitching well and even being used in some high leverage spots. And he might find himself as a late inning guy for them. Robert Garcia, Derek Law, Jacob Barnes, Tanner Rainey, another 1-2-3 inning for him. It's been very encouraging, and it's too bad that bullpen performance has not been a part of more wins over the last month, because it feels like if they got into a position where they were ahead late, they'd probably lock it down the way these guys have pitched. And unfortunately, they just haven't found themselves in that position enough, mostly because they're not scoring enough runs to take a lead.
What happened with Harvey and Floro is very instructive, and it's why with relievers, unless you are a true World Series contender, you sell high every time. These guys are fickle. They are untrustworthy. When they're going well, that can almost always mean that they're about to not go well. Like, that's almost how you have to view them. It's like day trading in the stock market. You sell high, you buy low, and the Nats handled Harvey and Floro perfectly. And, I'm not trying to take joy in what has happened with them since they left the Nats, but what has happened with them since they left the Nats, I think, is very instructive. And it's important to remember the next time, if the Nats are sellers, and hopefully that's not the case next season, but if somehow it is the case, that's how you have to approach it. No matter how well a reliever is doing, you should always be open to trading him. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but that he is going well is not a reason not to trade him. There should be other factors that compel you to not trade him. But yeah, those trades look mighty good from a Nationals perspective right now. So Game 3 for the Nats against the Royals at Nationals Park, Thursday afternoon at 1:05. Will the Nats score a run? That is perhaps the number one storyline for that game. And I say perhaps because another storyline for this game, the final outing for Patrick Corbin with the Nats. Barring the unforeseen, barring the shocking, this will be Patrick Corbin's final game in a Nationals uniform. We shall see what will transpire. I'm rooting for him. I hope he goes deep into the game. If you're Davey Martinez, why the heck not? And I hope he does well. I really do. I think it would be nice to see him end his time with the Nats in a positive way. We'll see.
Agreed. And, the Royals have not scored a lot of runs themselves. I mean, they may make the playoffs. It's going to be on the strength of their pitching. They have not hit here lately. You hope in a perfect world he pitches deep in the game and you get an opportunity to walk out to the mound, take the ball from him, and let him walk back to the dugout. It'll be really interesting to see what the fan reaction to that is. I think there's perfectly valid argument for giving him a nice hand and an ovation for what he did for them in 2019 for sure, but also just the fact that he kept taking the ball every 5 days for the last 5 seasons without complaint. And no, he did not pitch well in the vast majority of those starts, but he set an example for these young guys. We made such a big deal about how all the young guys made it through the season healthy, didn't miss any starts because of injuries. Patrick Corbin set the standard for the rest of them, and you can believe that or not. I'll just tell you that those pitchers believe that he set the standard for them. They take that very seriously. They believe he has played a major role in helping them grow as big league pitchers. And so if nothing else, hopefully that will be his legacy, winning pitcher in Game 7 of the World Series, and help the new crop of young pitchers learn how to perform and just take the ball at this level. And you thank him for what he did for you, and you say, best of luck, hope you can continue your career somewhere else, but it's time now to move on and improve at that spot.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast at gmail.com. You can check out our website too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
He holds third base side of the rubber, fires, and Gallo swings and drives it to deep right field. Bellinger back on the warning track, looking up, and it is gone. Goodbye. Into the bleachers, in straightaway right field. Bang, zoom goes Joey Gallo with his second 3-run homer in this series. It's a big fly for Gallo, and the Nationals have plated 4 runs here in the top of the 6th inning, and it is now Washington 5 and Chicago nothing.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.